Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In Podcast. Glad to have you back with me this week. It is somewhat rather of a weaker card compared to what we've been breaking down, and especially from what we got going forward. Still excited to break down UFC Vegas 15, Curtis Razor Blaydes versus Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. And if you're interested in a certain fight, we do have the timestamps below, so in the description, make sure to check that out. At the same time, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We are over 100, so we will get to sending this out to the winner here. We are going to draw for that soon. But coming off a profitable night, just 1.52 units up, I do believe, but so close to being over a 6+ unit night if we would have hit on that over 1.5 there on that main event.
Yeah, a little disappointed that that one didn't hit. And you're right, this isn't necessarily the most hyped card by any means, but we do have a couple of really good reads on it. And I think that there's some lines that we're about to hit pretty hard.
I think so as well, man. But to break down UFC 255, we had to kick off the night with Luis Kosei and Sasha Palatnikov, and it was a very fun fight to get the night started. It almost went exactly like everybody thought it was going to, and that was a Kosei with a round 1 TKO. He blew his wad trying to get Palatnikov out of there, and after that, Palatnikov went to work that second and third round and ultimately got a finish late in the third round there.
Props to Palatnikov weathering that initial storm from Kosei, and the inexperience in the later rounds really showed Kosei. I mean, you're right, he blew his wad. He really didn't have anything left in the gas tank for the remainder of that fight. Moving on, we went to Kyle Daukaus versus Justin Stolfus. Man, the Daukaus brothers are taking on the UFC by storm, and he looked really, really good.
He did look good, man. He's the one that prides himself on this black belt that he just recently received, but I was very impressed with him on the feet and his ability to land that left hand and get out of range himself. And then we had Alan Gobon fighting Jared Gooden, a fight that I was so excited for, one that I thought the dog had a really good chance, and in round 1 looked good, but Alan Gobon is tough as nails, really showed that veteran status and was able to stay in there and took over late and won that fight on the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, I thought that that one was a contender for fight of the night. You're right, Gobon's experience really shined, and both the guys can eat some shots. Like, it's really impressive. Moving on, we had Daniel Rodriguez versus Nicholas Dalby. I had Dalby to win this fight. I don't know if you can give him the 30-27 like that one judge did, but realistically, every single one of those rounds were up in the air, and it was not a robbery by any means like I've been seeing online.
Yeah, I don't think it's a robbery, but like you said, every round was left up for debate, and the judging we've seen lately wasn't surprised by the decision at all. And then we had Antonina Shevchenko. Go to work on Ariana Lipski. She's known for her striking, and man, she went out and actually utilized grappling, which we thought was her, disadvantage and her weakness in this one. And she went out and she put it on Ariana Lipski and got her out of there in under 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of value on the Shevchenko name for both girls, and I think she proved that having her sister there to sharpen her tools, it's paying off right now.
It definitely is, man. Being in training camp, full vibe and energy they had, I know it definitely showed last Saturday. And moving on to a fight that a little salty for you. I know.
Yeah, maybe the bozo pick of the night for me. I had a parlay, an 8-leg parlay, and I picked right, and he was the only one that didn't hit, and it cost me some money. I mean, that was the worst read I've ever had on a fight.
Yeah, Buckley came in there, even though he came in 82, man, he's in absolute phenomenal shape, and he landed the first one, and Jordan kind of shelled up and worked once he closed that distance on the fence. But I know I was kind of on Brandon Royval there, but I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say necessarily a bad read in my part as it got ended early with the injury. But man, Brandon Moreno, he looked good, and he really was. He was almost dominating with his wrestling there, and props to him for getting it done early and getting the title shot next month.
Yeah, it sucks it ended the way it did. I do think it was leaning towards Moreno's favor even as the fight would continue.
Yeah, and so it was it's cool because Moreno was supposed to fight Alex Perez, and then Cody got pulled off, and they gave Perez the title shot, where a lot of people thought Brandon Moreno was the more deserving of the title shot. So it's cool to see it play together, almost like a fairy tale ending for him. So it's cool to see him. I know he's been one of my favorite ever since Ultimate Fighter, where he was picked the very last and gave all the guys hell. So I'm excited for his fight next month. But man, the flyweight champ now is somewhat exciting.
It sure is. And then to kick off the main card, we had Shogun versus Paul Craig. Did exactly what the odds makers thought it was going to happen. Paul Craig ended up getting the TKO finish, but it was a tap to strikes. I'm sure anybody who had Craig by submission was pretty salty after that.
For sure, man. Paul Craig just Shogun's a bit over the hill. At 38 years old, kind of blew my mind because he seems much older than me. He's got a ton of miles on the body, and it's starting to show for him.
It sure is. I would like to see him go down to Bellator or something like that.
For sure. Probably our best read of the night, one that we were all over from the get-go. I mean, my girl Juke was just getting disrespected from the get-go. Recency bias out the ass, man. Her plus 220, give me Juke all day. She did exactly what we thought she was going to do.
100%. Second best read of the night, Tim Means. I mean, he outclassed Mike Perry. Mike Perry should really consider, getting a real corner, going to a different camp, trying to do something with his game because people have figured him out at this point, and a pretty lackluster performance in my opinion. I was a little disappointed.
Same here, man. Mike Perry's one of those guys I used to absolutely love fighting. I would never miss a Mike Perry fight, but just not the same Mike Perry anymore. When you got all that stuff going on outside the octagon, it's definitely shown in his performances. And then moving on to the co-main event, man, we had Jennifer Maia and Valentina Shevchenko. Actually lost her around there in the second round. Jennifer Maia got on top, and she is a strong girl. It's hard to get off the top view, but ultimately, every round starts back on the feet. And Valentina ultimately, was able to. That straight left is so fast, and she started landing it a lot late in the fight. But I was very surprised to see how grappling heavy of approach Shevchenko went into that fight. It worked, and she was slinging Maia to the ground, but that's where Maia's strong suit is.
Right. I mean, for Shevchenko to be a minus 2,000, I don't think that she looked it in there. And the fact that Maia got a round off of her, in her book, she might as well chalk that up as a win.
I know we talked about it. I think going into round 3, you could get Valentina to minus 250.
You could, and I almost hopped on it, and I was like, "Oh, lay off," because Maia's looking good. It went to a minus 1,000, right? And a minus 10,000 real quick.
And then a main event, big, defended his belt again. In my opinion, that was his second title. He should have been the belt holder when he beat Joe Benavidez the second time. But now, quick turnaround again, man. Alex Perez, we thought we should utilize the wrestling, and he did early like we wanted, so we could try to hit that over 1.5. I mean, he didn't set the guillotine up or nothing. He just turned into it and squeezed.
No, he didn't, and I really would have liked to see how that fight played out if Fig didn't grab the fence a couple of times.
Yeah.
It prevented the initial takedown from Perez. I don't know if they would have ended up in that position had he gotten it. So sucks that we missed out on our first max bet.
Absolutely. So we are up over 25 units, since July. I'm starting the podcast. Only 1 to 2 unit bets. That was the first 3 unit bet that we've had. So sucks for that. But look, going forward, not going to miss on those again.
We might even have a 3 unit bet on this card as well.
And man, this is a pretty anticipated showdown between Curtis Blaydes and Derrick Lewis. It's one that, in my opinion, has number 1 title, challenger written all over it. But also, man, in my potential, if John Jones doesn't get the immediate shot for the belt, one of these guys could be welcoming John Jones to the heavyweight division after this.
I would much rather John Jones be welcomed by the Black Beast than Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes, sure. I've been saying from the moment John has teased heavyweight, I think that might be his worst matchup just because of the sheer size and wrestling power of Curtis Blaydes. I always look for a spot to fade Derrick Lewis, and finally we get to. So.
I know, man. But to kick us off, man, I know this is a fight that you're looking forward to, so go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, we've got the Fighting Hawaiian Kai Kumaka III versus JSP Jonathan Pearce. This fight on Tapology is at lightweight, but apparently this fight will be at featherweight. I just confirmed that. Kai Kumaka, he's on a 6-fight win streak, and all of those being by decision, which might lead you to think that he's a decision machine. But realistically, I just don't think he's really caught the break yet.
Yeah.
With his fight style and his power, I do think that it's bound to happen. This might be a perfect opponent for it to happen against Jonathan Pearce. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Pearce, he's a Tennessee boy, which I know that we both like, but he's very hittable, lacks a lot of head movement, and we've seen it in his last couple fights where, the Joe Lozon fight, I'm not going to put too much pressure on Jonathan Pearce. He was the heavy favorite coming into that. It was in Joe Lozon's backyard, and it's his UFC debut. It's hard to bank on the UFC newcomer to deliver against a veteran like Joe Lozon. So, I'm not knocking him for that, but even in his Contender Series debut, he got touched up. For those first couple rounds, he got touched up. And that's just kind of the storyline of Jonathan Pearce. He can eat a whole lot of shots, and then you always have to watch out for him, making a comeback. Kai Kamaka, he's got fast hands. He delivers great body shots, and he looked really good off that UFC debut against Tony Kelly. I think he really put on a show for us, and I believe it was the fight of the night, or at least had a performance bonus.
Absolutely.
So, I've got Kai Kamaka here. Him sitting at a minus 321 makes me want to play Pearce, but I don't know if we can really justify playing Pearce.
Yeah, man. So I'm right there with you. I am going with Kumaka, but just let it be known, I want Pearce to win this fight, and I want Pearce. I want to bet him so bad at a 2-1 dog now. He is training out of MMA Lab and now Fight Ready, where he spent a lot of this fight camp. You touched on it, man. This is almost as durable as it gets of a guy. He definitely takes one to land one. He has to. He really has to expose himself to land some of his shots. Not the most technical guy. I really do feel like the technicality is going to lie on the side of Kai Kamaka, as well as the power and everything on the side of Kamaka as well. The resume for both these guys is really not too impressive. I'm not impressed by either one of them. And do I think Kumaka is deserving of the minus 330 price tag, or even the minus 200 that he opened up as, taking short notice? I don't really know, because I've seen good things from both of these guys. And you touched on Pearce's debut. It didn't go as planned. In less than 2 minutes, he found himself in what DC referred to as the half Nelson, just straight up getting his face pounded into the mat. Not the debut that you want, but he is coming in here with a little bit of a size advantage, man. And he has fought at higher weight classes than Kamaka has. I'm battle back and forth of if I am going to dabble with Pearce, because he's just looking to make up for that debut, and I think they're disrespecting him a little bit with these odds, and I think they're giving Kai Kamaka just a little too much generosity here, being the smaller guy, taking it on short notice. So altogether, it's probably going to be a pass for me, and for the record, I'm going to take Kai Kamaka. But for the record, I do want Jonathan Pearce to win that fight.
I understand.
The next fight, man, we have at catchweight is Luke Sanders, who's 13-3, fighting Nate Maness, who's 12-1. This is a fight. It's an exciting one for me, to be honest with you. Both of these guys, they don't have a lot of decisions on their record. You do see a lot of finishes between these guys, which is rare for a lot of these lower weight classes. You've seen both of these guys fight as low down as flyweight and stuff at 125. And Luke Sanders there is another Tennessee boy, man, fighting out of Nashville, and now also fights out of Fight Ready as well, so has been in camp with Jonathan Pearce. So it's nice to see two guys who have been in camp, riding that energy off each other, training. You always do see a usually good performance out of that. That being said, man, he is 3-3 in the UFC, and he's alternated those wins and losses. So if you're a superstitious person, he is due for a loss here, actually, and he's on a year and a 9-month layoff, which something for a 34-year-old that you really, really don't like too much. Both of these guys have held belts in minor organizations, so both of them, I don't really tend to worry about the cardio. They're in the lower weight classes, but both of them have been scheduled for 5 rounds, so I don't see either one of them tiring out. And if one of them does, it's the 34-year-old that's coming off the massive layoff. On the side of Nate Maness, it's a pretty one-dimensional attack. He relies primarily on his hands. He's got very good boxing. And that on Luke Sanders' side, where he's got good hands, but he has a kick-heavy approach. And I think he's the more well-rounded of the two. He's definitely fought the better competition, being in the UFC for so long. But I'm not necessarily sold that he's going to go out there and dominate Maness or anything. The odds makers did open Maness at almost a 2-1 favorite. So they're the professionals in this. A lot of them see Nate Maness. I don't have problem dabbling on Nate Maness now in the underdog spot. He's 5 years younger. It's going to be a bit taller. And I can't bet on a guy coming off the playoff. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Nate Maness, he's my guy here. You already talked about him opening up at a minus 180, and now he's sitting at a plus 123, and I love that spot. His one loss is to Taylor Lapalus, who went 3-1 in the UFC, and then they cut him. I don't really know the reasons why, but that's legit competition right there. And then the Johnny Munoz Jr. fight, definitely odd circumstances, him getting kicked in the nuts 4 times and getting a point deducted. Although Maness did his job, stuffing 14 of Munoz's 16 takedown attempts, and I think that speaks volumes on his ability to keep the fight standing up on the feet. Now, although Munoz's two takedowns that he landed, he was able to capitalize on it and lay on him a little bit. Maness, he showed some. Uh, he just showed the ability to kind of keep it on the feet whenever he needs. Right, right. Maness, he has the ability to switch between southpaw and conventional, and I think that could give Luke Sanders some problems, especially considering Luke Sanders kind of has a predictable fight style. He enjoys the 1-2, and he kind of overextends himself, and that's left him open for a couple of people that he shouldn't have gotten knocked out by. And the one that just sticks out to me is Andre Sukumtov. Don't get knocked out by him. I'll never bet on you again if you get knocked out by Soccer Mom. So I I really do like Maness here. Maness, he's going to be the bigger dude. He's 5'10" and has a 72-inch reach, and he's fought all the way up to at lightweight. He's now facing Luke Sanders, who is, traditionally a flyweight, who's 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. And the fact that we're getting plus money on Maness right now, I think a straight bet on him makes a whole lot of sense. I'm not too, although, it's a Tennessee boy in Sanders, I just can't look past the almost 2-year layoff and him turning 35 years old next month.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. When you see the fight on paper and you look at the resume and stuff of Sanders, it does pop off the page when you look at that of Nace. Sanders has been in there with a much better competition and has been in the UFC for quite some time. But man, the more I look at it, I don't understand how we're getting dog odds on a guy who's bigger versus a guy who's 35 and coming off on a layoff. Um, I just feel like I might think, like I said, that Luke is a more well-rounded fighter, but there's nothing that's ever going to get me to bet on him in this spot. I think the value was without a doubt on Maness. Even if it's a half unit stab, the value is without a doubt on Maness there.
100%. Moving on, coming in, this guy right here. I mean, after doing a little bit of tape study, I'm really hype on the Tibetan Eagle, Mudaerji. He's coming in facing Malcolm X Gordon. Mudaerji, and he almost fights like Conor McGregor. He has that wide stance, that straight left hand, great footwork and movement. I could go on and on about the things that I like about Mudaerji, and him being only 24 years old. The sky's the limit for this guy. And in the bantamweight division, like, why not add in another? Uh, he's coming off of the decision win over Andre Sukumtov, but he made it easy work. Like, that's what I want to see whenever you're facing Andre Sukumtov.
He put him on the map. 2 or 3
Yeah,
strikes.
like I need you to just dismantle him, and that's exactly what he did. 10 of his 12 wins are by TKO, and dude is just a monster. I really like Mudaerji. Moving on to Malcolm Gordon. He's coming off of his UFC debut loss against Amir Albazi, who's also on this card. That was a first-round triangle. Malcolm Gordon, I don't have much good to say. Whenever I saw the initial like matchup, I didn't know what the odds were, and I was really hoping that we could get Mudaerji at decent odds. But his line had already moved to a minus 320 when he opened at a minus 175. And I mean, I would have I would have put the house on Mudaerji if I could have gotten him at those opening odds, but just didn't happen that way. Malcolm Gordon is going to be the smaller man coming into this. He usually fights at flyweight, and although all I really am going off of is the Albazi fight, when Albazi got it to the ground, I mean, he cut through Malcolm Gordon like butter, and it didn't leave a good impression on me. So, I think that we're looking for a Mudaerji parlay later on in the night.
For sure, man, and I'm all over it with you. Malcolm, I just want to touch on him because nothing really good that I have to say about him. Not only he's supposed to be a good jiu-jitsu black belt. He's got 6 of his 12 wins by sub. But you're right, Amir Albazi cut through him hot knife and butter, man. It was unreal once those two hit the mat. And then not only that, but this is a guy that doesn't like to be hit. He has been finished on the feet 3 times himself, and at flyweight, it's not a lot of power that's being brought your way to shut your lights out. And on the other hand, we've seen Sue, finish majority of his fights at flyweight, so he's got the power to do it here. The UFC must see it as well because you don't see very many guys getting a UFC signing on coming off of a loss. Sue did put together like 4 or 5 good KOs in a row and then lost, and the UFC still signed him. again, kind of the case in either one of these guys having that good a resume. So, Sue's not that good, but, you can't look at Gordon and say it's very impressive either and that he has his advantage there because he really doesn't. Uh, I really like Sue here, man. His hands are super fast. You talked about the Conor McGregor striking style. It's very, very good striking, and it's come extremely, extremely fast. He is so much of a better striker here. He's got twice the footwork. I see his knock of his 4 losses. They're all by sub. Where Gordon has got 6 of his 12 wins by sub, and he's strong on the mat. But man, I just don't see him being able to get this one to the mat very easily. Sue is much better than the guys that he has been fighting. Sue's going to be bigger. And, Sue's getting submitted by guys like Luis Smolka, who is much better jiu-jitsu than Malcolm Gordon. I'll just tell you that right now. He's 24 years old. This is all the making for Sue inside the distance here, and I like the TKO at even plus money. You can get a Sue TKO at plus 125, and he's TKO'd like 80% of his opponents before, where we've seen Gordon, it's lights. He's been finished in 3 of his 4 by strikes on the feet. So I like the inside the distance, probably at close to pick'em, and a TKO even plus money.
Yeah, if he was fighting a pure grappler, I would look to maybe fade Mudaerji, but as of right now, Malcolm Gordon hasn't shown me anything that makes me, even feel worried about him getting the submission. And at 24 years old, having a submission loss against Luis Smolka is nothing to hang your head about. You've got a lot to improve on, and Smolka's a veteran, even though he is spotty.
So yeah, all over Sue Mudaerji on Saturday. I know we're gonna have him in a parlay, and I will not be surprised if we take that TKO or inside the distance as well. And man, moving on to man, both these guys, they're fighting for their job in my opinion. You have Martin Day, who's 8-4, and Anderson Dos Santos, who is 20-8. Both guys were unsuccessful in their first 2 UFC fights. Like I said, fighting for a spot on the roster, in my opinion. Martin Day is one of those fun, exciting Hawaiian strikers that you really like to watch, but there's something about those Hawaiians, man, and they don't have good striking defense coming back at them. They're very hittable. That can be said for Martin Day. I know he almost got Davey Grant out of there, but he ended up getting TKO'd just in July, man, just a couple months ago by Davey Grant, where he got hit with the same shot over and over again. So, yes, he takes one to land one, but he doesn't make mid-fight adjustments. And, I don't feel like his corner gives him good advice when he gets back to the corner because I saw him get hit with the same shots over and over again. I do think he's the more technical of the two, as Anderson Dos Santos is a bit more wild style, forward pressure, trying to go after the takedowns. But being at the size disadvantage, you usually see Anderson take some damage trying to close that range. Something that I think he's going to have a problem with here is as Martin Day is good, kind of a good resemblance to the Andre Ewell as the 5'10" frame, as uses the jab well, uses the kicks well to keep Anderson Dos Santos at bay. But I don't trust Martin Day with my money at all because he's been finished twice on his feet as well. The power definitely leans toward Anderson Dos Santos. They've both been finished on the feet here. They both need a win badly. I think Dos Santos is outmatched on the feet. But then again, on the receiving end, I can't trust the chin of Martin Day. This is a complete pass for me. I think this is an absolute shit show of a fight.
Do you got a pick for it?
Yeah, officially, I will lead with Martin Day for that one.
So I think I'm gonna officially go with Anderson Dos Santos, although there are obvious holes in both these guys' games, and I could see it going either way. Like you said, it's more of a coin flip. I sure as hell wouldn't pay money to bet on Day by any means. You mentioned that they're fighting for their career in the UFC, and Dos Santos really needs it. If at 35 years old right now at bantamweight, he's got to make a run right now, or it'll never happen. So some things working in his advantage is that he's training at Team Oyami with Alex Perez and Luis Smolka. So he's definitely getting that experience and getting day in, day out, looks that I think will help him improve his game. One of the biggest wins on Dos Santos' record is he choked out Ricky Simone in 2016 in Titan FC, and that's a legitimate win.
Yeah.
Ricky, I mean, he's making a staple in the UFC, and it's something that I was actually really impressed just checking over his record. One thing about Dos Santos is, you might have touched on it, he will sit in the pocket and trade shots. Like him being at 5'5", he kind of has to do that. And I don't think that he's technical enough to find a way to maneuver inside without getting punched a couple of times in his face. them being bantamweights, they both have really good gas tanks and really high output. But you're right, Martin Day, he has those long punches. He stands tall. That technical striking will play a huge factor in this fight. But I don't see. I don't think it's out of the question by any means for Dos Santos to be able to get this fight to the ground and implement that ground attack. That's why him sitting at a plus 153 or better right now. I'll probably dabble on him. Not that that'll ever be like a sure pick for me or that we would play it for the podcast, but that's where the value is in my opinion.
And it is because Anderson Dos Santos is looking to land a bomb on the feet, countered Martin Day, and like I said, Martin Day was just KO'd back in July where he took a lot of damage
and starched, stiffened for a long time.
So that does worry me. Officially, I do toward Martin Day, but he's got to be perfect, man. I think he's got to get this one done. Decision over 15 minutes.
Moving on, probably the fight I'm least looking forward to. We've got the Rebel girl Ashlee Evans Smith, who's 6-4, versus the immortal Norma Dumont, who's 4-1. Both these girls, they don't deserve to be in the UFC, in my opinion. Ashlee Evans Smith, she's coming off a near 2-year layoff at 33 years old. It's the same old same. I don't like layoffs, especially after 30.
And all injury.
Yeah, right.
Her career has just been plagued with injuries.
And then 3-4 in the UFC, but her 3 wins hold no water. It's Beck Rollins, who's now on bare knuckle. Veronica Macedo. Again, it's like something that you can't really you're not happy about it. Marion Renault, who that's a decent win, but it was a split decision. Again, she's coming from Team Oyama, who has Carlos Esparza to train with, so that would be something that I like in Evan Smith. But at the same time, 2 of her 4 losses are by submission, and 2 of the 4 wins from Norma Dumont is by rear naked choke. So I do think that I don't even know if I guess I'll pick Norma, but just because I have to pick somebody, and I think that she'll get it done by submission. She's coming down from her UFC debut against Megan Anderson, who's a tough debut opponent, especially at 145 when you're a true bantamweight. So I do think that this will give her a much better opportunity to get a win in the UFC than matching her up with Megan Anderson off the jump would. Man, this fight's sucky.
Keeping it short for me too as well. Ashlee Evans Smith, it's not been good layoffs for her. It's been ones due to injury, and this calls her now to go back up to bantamweight where she did dabble down there at flyweight, so she's back up to featherweight or to bantamweight. I mean, she needs a win really bad here, man. The odds makers opened her as a dog, and maybe they have more to see on Norma Dumont than we could find because there is nothing out there on Norma Dumont. I tried to do as much tape study as I could. There's literally just nothing for her to watch other than that Megan Anderson fight. She took Megan Anderson down, was able to kind of get back to her feet, and then ultimately didn't end too well for her. But you're right, she has fought at 145. She's probably going to come in there, maybe a little thicker girl, maybe have the power advantage. But I think the technicality side does lean toward Ashlee Evans Smith. She does have double the fights. She's been in there with the tougher girls. She trains with the better girls. She has a ton of volume, which over 15 minutes, that plays a lot in the judge's mind in a lot of these girl fights. And I think she's the more well-rounded. I'm really basing this off of who I've seen her in the cage with. We've seen because I've seen way more athlete Ashlee Evans Smith than I have of Norma Dumont. But the layoff, man, is I cannot trust anybody. She is just a couple weeks shy of under a 2-year layoff. I can't trust her with my money. I think this is a boring fight. I think it's one that you might get up and go run an errand real quick, run and get some fast food and come back. It's a complete pass for me. But I'm going to lean with Ashlee Evans Smith to win.
Yeah, and one more thing. Ashlee Evans Smith, she's coming back up to bantamweight after flyweight loss to Andrea Lee. And then Dumont coming from 145 and then meeting at bantamweight, Dumont being like a grapple heavy attack. That's why I lean towards her. Not because she's shown me anything,
And moving on to the prelim main event, maybe we'll switch some things around. Not the prelim main event that we
You're not running back from the errands to see this fight.
to see this one either. We have Rachael Ostovich, who's 4-5. Yes, I said that correct. 4-5. versus Gina Mazany, who's 6-4. This is in the women's flyweight division. Man, Rachael Ostovich, if she doesn't get you down to the ground and get some type of top game going, it's kind of a lost cause for her. I don't feel like she is a very well-rounded fighter. She is coming off a layoff herself. It has been 2 years since we saw her fight Paige Van Zandt. She's 29, so are we going to see improvements? Or is this girl more worried about traveling the country, being an Instagram model and stuff? Because you look at her Instagram, and then you go pull up the Instagram of Gina Mazany. Gina Mazany lives in the gym compared to Rachael Ostovich. Rachael Ostovich looks like she got back in the gym for the last 5 weeks just for her training camp, and outside of that, it was months and stuff before I saw another gym picture on there. She does pride herself on the ground game, and she does have some submission wins, but she's also been submitted in her last two losses by Montana De La Rosa and Paige Van Zandt. Not really girls that offer the biggest submission threat to me. So I don't really like Rachael Ostovich that much. I like following her on Instagram, but I don't like her that much as a fighter. When I look over at Gina Mazany, she fights over at Extreme Couture, spends some time with Jane Krause now as well, and she's married or dates Tim Elliott. So you're dating, living with an active fighter. You spend so much time in the gym. She looks to be in great shape. This will be her third fight of 2020, and she has fought much better girls than Rachael Ostovich has, and you can knock her, for the losses. They are up a weight class, and they're giving her to girls like Julia Avila, to Macy Chiasson, to Lena Landsberg, girls that were like way bigger than her, girls that were supposed to beat Gina Mazany and do exactly what they did to get a win underneath their belt. She's going to be coming in here with a 6.5-inch reach advantage, with like a 3-inch height advantage, and she looks to be in phenomenal shape. I think she's salty from that last fight. She took short notice and got, needing a clinch and dropped with a body shot. I think we see a good Gina Mazany, and I don't think we need to see that good of a Gina Mazany to beat Rachael Ostovich on Saturday. It's a women's flyweight fight that I don't want to put my money on. Man, I think Gina's A side in this fight. I think she's the better fighter.
So, it's hard to say somebody who's 1-4 in the UFC is the A side to any fight, but I think you're right. She has lost to the better competition. I don't even know, like that's still again like not something that I'd be proud about,
Right.
but Mazany, she does have a good straight left, although when she throws that straight left, her chin's way up in the air, and she has just some obvious flaws in her game. I think at 32 years old, this is this is where she'll live for the rest of her UFC career, is on the prelims, if she has one after this fight. There's a real argument to be made for Rachael Ostovich to get this done. She is really strong in the clinch, and even in that Paige Van Zandt fight, she got Paige Van Zandt down like 2 or 3 times, and the only reason why Van Zandt pulled off the armbar is because Ostovich kind of made an amateur mistake on getting too high on her back and then getting thrown off. Ostovich, she's got a compact body, and so like if she does wrap up a submission, she can crank on a limb, and
She's
so
tough on top. She's heavy.
yeah. So like again, Ostovich is probably only in the UFC because of her looks, like you said. And even when she is back in the gym, she's training out of Jesus is Lord, and I I don't know anybody else other than her husband that's fighting out of there. Where Gina, she's fighting out of Extreme Couture, like you said, so she's definitely getting the better looks. I think that this is going to be a complete shit show. I'll lean towards Gina just because. Although if we have to watch girl fights and everything else, I like seeing Ostovich in the cage.
Absolutely, yeah. So, gun to my head, I gotta say Gina Mazany there, but man, I hate laying money on fights. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree
And
more.
that does end the prelim main event.
All right, to kick off the main card, we go to the featherweight division. Senor Perfecto and Bill Algeo versus the Alpha Ginger Spike Carlyle, maybe my favorite nickname in the game. Bill Algeo, he's 13-5 and coming off of his loss to Ricardo Lamas. That was a dogfight. It really was. But something that I noticed about all of Algeo's fights is that he just isn't strong. He's almost weak in comparison to a lot of the guys that he fights, and he gets thrown around. And that's something where I think Spike Carlyle has the huge advantage. He's a big featherweight coming into here, and physically, athletically, he's just gifted that way. It's not necessarily that he's the most technical fighter by any means, but he will he will use just pure force to implement his game plan, and it's worked out for him. That first round I think is where Spike Carlyle has the best chance to get it done, and I really have I think a little bit of a bias to Spike Carlyle just because he is one of the most exciting fighters to watch in my opinion, and uh, just puts on a show. He's been training at King's MMA with Benil Dariush and specifically with Giga Chikadze. He's been putting in rounds with him, and I think that that's a perfect opponent for Bill Algeo, who's also 6 foot and has a kicking heavy attack. I think Spike Carlyle is going to come in here with a game plan to just get it done. And at the minus 162, I really like the idea of us playing him straight and even a round one KO, which we haven't done since like Randy Costa. Um, about Bill Algeo, like I said, he likes to throw kicks from his back leg. So he switches stance both orthodox and southpaw, and whichever one his back leg is, you can expect a kick coming from it. He throws good combos, but like I said, I think that he's just going to be outmanned in this matchup.
So, man, I'm with you. I do lean towards Spike Carlyle on this one, and I'm okay playing him money line wise. The only knock that you can give Spike is his fight IQ or that cardio, and he really is a one-round fighter. He goes out there and goes for broke. But, I mean, the power doesn't go in rounds 2 or 3. The will doesn't go in round 2 or 3. Spike's a dog, man. And you see him get exhausted in that round 1 against Billy Q. And I know he lost that fight, man. But, I'll be one of the first to say that could have gone Spike's way on any other day. It was a super, super close fight. He's a very, very unorthodox guy, and you don't know what he's going to throw at you. You really don't. Once he's seen the judges' scorecard twice. He's lost both of those to decision. Spike, I think he knows where his success lies, and it's early. I do like the training opponent with Giga Chikadze. It's a perfect representation. It's a perfect training partner to replicate Bill Algeo. It's that kick-heavy attack at 6 foot, a real long, skinny frame. Bill Algeo, man, he's got for 13-5, just now getting signed to the UFC. He's got a pretty decent resume out there. I knock his losses a little bit, but they're to Jared Gordon, Shane Burgos, Brendan Loughnane, who I think is the best guy not signed by the UFC right now, and then Ricardo Lamas, which was an absolute dogfight. So I don't want to knock him on him, but he is weak, man, and with that 6 foot frame, can't carry a lot of muscle for that 145. And I mean, Spike cuts a lot of weight for that.
I'm pretty sure he forced a catchweight bout in the Billy Q fight because he couldn't make it to 145, so they made it at 150.
Would not surprise me. Spike is as powerful as I get. He's got raw strength that's going to be unmatched here. Is Algeo maybe the more technical of the two? Probably. Does he have the black belt on the mat? Yes. Is he a little bit too willing to go to the mat a lot of times? Yes. I think as long as Spike doesn't make some stupid decision on the mat or get up and walk away before the round ends or something like he did in that last fight, arguably give away his round that he won. I like Spike to get this one done. I do have a little Hail Mary in the night. Bill Algeo in round 3 is like a plus 2,050 or plus 2,100, and man, only way I see Spike losing this is if it gets late and Bill Algeo snatches the neck on the guillotine or something late.
And if we do bet the Spike Carlyle line's heavy, I wouldn't mind just hedging that third round specifically for Algeo, even though he's not like getting people out of there very often either.
One of my biggest to Spike's cardio.
Right. Even with Algeo, man, he's another one of those guys that trains out of his own gym, and I think that hurts you tremendously. Like if you're not getting better looks in the gym, you're not going to be improving your game, especially past 30 years old. That's something that I would really consider doing if I were him. But he's coming in. He's got to weather the storm, and it's similar to Billy Q, where it's like you've got to weather the storm, and then you can start implementing your game plan. But I don't think he's half the fighter that Billy Q is, and I think Spike Carlyle is going to come in here and just have his way with him.
I'm with you, man. So I'm glad we both linked Spike on that one. Moving on, we have Miguel Baeza taking on Takashi Sato. This is a fun fight for us too. I know it's one of the we don't agree on here, man. Taking place at welterweight division, Miguel Baeza is undefeated at 9-0 with Takashi Sato at 16-3. So Miguel Baeza, I mean, if this guy can't get his kick game going, gonna lose the fight. He relies on his kick heavy attacks. He likes to throw them to the calf. He throws them to the thigh, to the body, to the head. He's one of those guys that really switches the levels with his kicks very well. He's 2-0 in the UFC with 2 finishes and a Contender Series finish there as well. He does offer power in his hands, but to be honest with you, he doesn't have the best striking defense and kind of plays it tall man style and gets in trouble when people throw multi punch combos at him. And yes, Sato has a ton of power to get it done, but I don't see the combos that I like to see from Sato to get this done. Sato likes to sit back in that lead foot heavy karate stance and lunge in, timing his shots. And I mean, when he times them, man, Sato's got unreal power that can put guys away. I don't like to read too much into the Jason Witt fight, even though we just saw Jason Witt look amazing, but we saw him look amazing against a guy on a massive layoff who missed the scale.
Not to mention he was coming in on 2 days' notice.
You're right, with that Sato fight, and not getting your medicals back in time, being bumped up to the main card, I just can't read too much into that fight to give Sato, yeah, that's a super good win for you. Miguel Baeza, like I said, he's got to get the kicks going early, and what fighters have a bad tendency of doing is they have to get them going early and they quit. It's something Baeza can't do because I feel like Sato was more technical with his hands. And Sato has twice the experience of this guy. I've seen a lot of money come in on Sato as he opened up at plus 165, and now he's down to about the minus 150 range. So public money is coming in on Sato. I think Baeza has got the speed advantage in the exchanges. I like him to maybe have the power advantage. But I'm going to tell you, both of these guys land clean. I really do think they can both end each other's night. I got to lean with a little bit of size advantage there with Baeza. It's going to be a super fun fight, man. This is one of those that I've really looked at it being fight of the night. I don't think the judges are needed in this one. I don't know if Takashi Sato is the guy that's going to take the O away from Miguel Baeza, though. But I do think that he is absolutely one of the most live dogs in the card. But officially, I will lean toward Miguel Baeza on this one.
So officially, I lean towards Sato, but that's more or less because this is a coin flip matchup, and you get plus odds on Sato. You touched on Baeza having a kick-heavy attack, and most importantly, he relies on the low calf kick. That's something that he's been able to implement in the Matt Brown and Hector Aldana fight, and really lean on that to get his offense off. Takashi Sato standing in a southpaw stance, I really do think that it'll negate the low calf kick heavy attack of Baeza. I think we could see Baeza switch it up more to the body and to the head, but still implement that kick heavy attack. I see Sato kind of making Baeza have to work for different angles in his attacks rather than relying on that calf kick to kind of reset the exchange. Baeza, 7 of his 9 wins are by TKO, KO. I'm with you. I don't see this one going to the judges. It's just who can implement their straight left in Sato or straight right in Baeza. Who can get it off first? Who's going to figure out the timing? And that's where I think it leans in Sato's favor. I think that as the fight goes on, he's going to get that timing down with Baeza. And he has extremely good vision, really fast hands, and good timing. And I really do think that he'll be able to implement that straight left. Although I will say Baeza has more tools in his offense than Sato does.
Yeah, I think Sato's if he does have success on the feet, it's going to be countering one of those kicks that Baeza's going to throw. Baeza can't throw him naked. He's got to set him up before he throws because if Takashi comes flying in, countering that kick, you're usually left wide open when you're throwing one of those kicks.
And Baeza, when I watched the Matt Brown fight, he got dropped. Mouthpiece got put out. He got flash knocked out by Matt Brown. And I mean, it was one of those ones where Brown was able to put a 3-4 punch combo on him, and it backed Baeza up against the cage. And that could be the determining factor with this is Sato just doesn't throw enough combos to get it done. But maybe he's also seen that, or his camp's seen that. I just think that Baeza, he's 9-0, but I think that he's very beatable. And at these odds right here, I'll officially go with Sato. But
it is a coin flip.
It is a coin flip. One other good thing about Baeza is, I watched him do a couple of takedowns in the tape study, and he'll drive all the way through on his takedowns, all the way to the fence, and he doesn't give up on it. So I really do like it. If he does decide to take it to the ground, if he starts getting touched up by Sato, I could look for him to try and take it to there. But yeah, officially I'll go with Sato. Not a ton of confidence in it, more just playing off the odds.
So don't agree on that one, but that's what makes it most fun come fight night.
For sure, for sure. Moving on, we go to the flyweight division with Amir Albazi, who's 13-1, versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. And this is a pick'em fight right here. I know Albazi opened as a -156 and has since been bet all the way down to -102. So we're now getting them at pick'em odds, and I actually lean with the odds makers who opened it up at a -156. I think Albazi's, his record or the people that he's beaten isn't nearly the level that Zhalgas has. Zhalgas has had a couple of wins over Tyson Nam and Tagir Ulanbekov, both outside of the UFC, but those are legitimate wins that you can't look past. Um, Albazi, what he does really well is he has, just perfect technique on his takedowns, and he's really methodical on the ground with the attack that he goes to. We talked on it a little bit in his win over Malcolm. He cut through him like butter, and it just made him look like a white belt, And I'm pretty sure Albazi's a purple belt, and Malcolm Gordon was the black belt, but was able to just shit on him on the ground. And then not to mention Albazi, he has really good distance control and a pawing jab that he uses to kind of set up the power shot. He's really impressive, and I wrote down right here that he doesn't have many holes, if any, in his game. I think somebody would have to be better at one aspect of MMA and expose that in Albazi's game. But if you're decent all around, Albazi's going to be the better one all around. So I like this at flyweight. I'm leaning definitely towards Albazi. Now, as Zhalgas, one of the things is he's training in Kazakhstan with Shavkat Rakhmonov, and we've seen some good fighters come out of there, especially when it comes to the ground game. That's somewhere where I think Zhalgas is going to attempt to bring it to the ground. He's got really good takedowns and trips inside the clinch, and I expect him to try and get it to the ground. But as we saw in the Rolly and Paiva fight, it was like when the last 10-second claps. When he heard those, that's when he decided to do the takedown. So if he's going to do that, I would like to see him do that early and try and test out Albazi's ground defense before those later ends of the round, because he is somebody who isn't like technically the best striker but is comfortable standing up with people. I definitely see Albazi getting this done in more ways than Zhalgas.
I'm with you, man. So Amir Albazi, I went to check this guy's Instagram, and the first thing, I have no idea how this guy's a flyweight. I'm curious to see how the scale is going to treat him on Saturday. He looks like a legit featherweight in there, and I think that's going to be massive for him come Saturday if he does make weight correctly. I think it's going to be a huge advantage that he has on the mat when he gets it there. One thing he needs to do is he needs to take the center of the octagon. Zhalgas, see, I think of him more primarily as a striker. I don't see him trying to go for takedowns in this fight against a guy who was proven to be a submission threat on the ground. In my opinion, Zhalgas, he's one of those guys who, especially in his last couple of fights, last 6 or 7, he's gone to decision like 95% of the times. And I think that's where he'll have success against a lot of these bigger guys who will have this muscle advantage on him and the size advantage on him. It's getting those later to the rounds where his volume and his footwork and stuff will start piling up on him. You touched on the resumes because it definitely does lean toward that of Zhalgas. He's fought some very tough competition on the regional scene. Gifted some of the wins, maybe, but they're very close. A lot of these are scheduled for 5 rounds, so I have to give the cardio advantage to Zhalgas. It's somebody that we've seen multiple times over 25 minutes. He gives up the takedowns really, really early. He usually loses rounds 1 and 2 and some of round 3, and then starts to come back later with his striking when the takedowns get harder, where these guys don't have as much energy in them. And this is a 3-round fight against a guy who I think is also a very, very good grappler, and a guy that only has to win the first 2 and survive the third. He doesn't have to win 3 or 4 rounds against Zhalgas here. He only has to win the first 2. Amir Albazi by sub is a plus 450. I think there's value on that. I think there's value at pick 'em odds on Albazi. Um, I really, his biggest question is going to be the cardio getting out of the first round because we know Zhalgas can go 25 easy. But I do think Albazi has enough in the gas tank that he can, and we can get him down to the mat, even though Zhalgas is hard to hold down. He can pile up enough takedowns, get enough ground passes, something in the first 2 rounds that he's going to edge those out. I think Zhalgas probably wins the third round. I'd really be willing to bank on that. I think the size advantage, the strength advantage, and it's just going to be too much too early for Zhalgas early in the fight. I think Albazi probably wins it by decision or by sub. Zhalgas only wins this by decision. So if you are going to take a stab on underdog, just get even better odds in your favor and go to the decision. But at a pick 'em odds, man, I like Amir Albazi in this one. I think that's going to be a play that we release later.
Agreed.
And moving on, man. Finally, to some big boys of the night and stuff, man. We have Josh Perisian, who's 13-3, fighting Parker Porter, who's 10-6, and a much closer fight than what these odds show, in my opinion, right now. Maybe at a minus 165, I'll play Parisian, but at the range, I think 230 or something where he's at now, 220. I can't play it, man. He's one of those that we've talked about. He's an unproven heavyweight to us. I wish I would have gotten an opening odds, but I just can't do it right now, man. This guy is a 2-time contender series winner. Didn't got his contract. But man, this guy's got 3 losses, and he's finished in all 3 of these losses on the feet. If he takes a big punch from a heavyweight, he's had troubles with it. And Parker Porter's going to be slinging back from him, sending across the octagon. Parisian, his 2 wins on Contender Series, they're good. But, I mean, when you're not fighting under the Contender Series banner in the UFC, he's gotten just absolute scrubs. Granted, he's staying active, which it could, as active as he's been. I think he had like all 4 or 5 fights in 2019 and, a couple in 2020. It's like, how good of competition can you get? That's almost the case with like Jared Gooden. When you're fighting once every month or two, it's like, once you get to the higher level, some of these guys only fight 2 or 3 times a year. So you have to take, if you want to stay active, sometimes you don't get the best of competition standing across from you. But it's just been a reoccurring theme with Parisian and something that I don't think he's deserving of these odds by no means. That being said, man, I still do think he gets this done. Parker Porter, he's been a pro since 2007. I think we are definitely getting recency bias again on these odds. He was just TKO'd by Chris Dawkins, yeah, the better of the brothers, I think. Chris Dawkins has had some real success. And I think that fight was a pick 'em. And Dawkins went out there and ended it in the first round. And then looked good in his next fight as well. So I can't knock Parker Porter for that performance there, but I can knock him from getting TKO'd in August and stepping back into a fight, where he's not really been given, a good chance here, Maybe could have been a little bit more selective with his opponent. That being said, he's got a, 5'11", 6-foot frame there for heavyweight. Not the most athletic built frame, but this guy has got decent footwork and he throws very, very good kicks for a heavyweight. If he can get that calf kick going, that's something he might be able to, cause some trouble with Josh. I think Josh just moves too much. He doesn't move and have the footwork of Chris Dawkins, but he does have more movement and better footwork than Parker Porter. The quick turnaround kind of does worry me. To 6'4" versus 6 foot, 79-inch reach versus 75. I know I compared it to Dontel Mays and Roque Martinez. I think Parisian will have the output to win it via decision, but I don't think he has the power to put Parker away. And I think in that third round, if Perisian has wasted his energy and blown his wad, I think Parker Porter's a live dog in that third round. But for me, the over 1.5 is plus money in this one. I don't think Perisian has the power to put Parker Porter away early. So I think I'm going to play the over 1.5 there. I think Porter's got the chin to with the
I didn't know that about the 1.5. That is something I'd look into as well. I'll officially take Parker Porter. I think that he's just getting disrespected here. And it's not that I'm like saying that Porter has just like incredible technique or a reason why he should win. I just think he's getting disrespected because I have no faith in Josh Perisian. I mean, he's on a 6-fight win streak right now. And he, outside of those Contender Series wins, And you touched on it.
It's
Fought
4-11.
absolute garbage.
Yeah, 4-11 record, a 4-4, a 3-1, and a 10 to get you on the contender series again. It's nothing special.
Yeah, it's and even in his contender series wins, I think he fights like Ben Rothwell with kicks.
Yeah.
Like he tries to use his weight to, force his opponents to open up, and that's something he's not going to get with Parker Porter. Parker Porter's 6 foot, pushes the heavyweight limit, and I would bet he has a 50-inch waist. Like I mean he is as thick as it gets. He has tree trunks for legs, and he does not mind eating kicks to deliver counters.
Mhm.
And that's something that I think Josh Parisian will play right into. I think that he has a kick-heavy attack. Um, he's going to try and implement that, and that's something that I can just see Parker Porter sitting on and throwing a huge overhand right and knocking Parisian out. Like I like Porter here, and then we're also talking, Porter, maybe a little bit of recency bias on getting touched up by Chris Daukaus in that first round, but Daukaus's speed is not even comparable to Parisian. Parisian's
to
half
mention,
the speed of Daukaus.
I just watched an interview with Parker Porter today, actually, and he said he cut, like, don't quote me on 20 or 30 pounds to make that heavyweight limit in his last fight. He said he did not come into the fight ready, fight shape. This is one that I think we might get a good read on the weigh-ins, man. If Porter comes into good shape, at we probably get him at more than a plus 200 dog. It might be worth the stab against another unproven.
Yeah, I think the line continues in Parisian's favor.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but I'll take Parker Porter even right now. I mean, he opened at a plus 136, and that would even be somebody, again, I'd play at 136. I think Porter's just getting disrespected here, and I really like him against Josh Parisian. It's one of those unproven heavyweight fights like we talked about, but it just kills me to stay away from this when I think that there's a play to be made.
Another thing Parker Porter does good is he's real good with his clinch work. Pushes guys up against the cage very well, and like I said, if Josh goes out there and tries to blow his wad earlier to get Parker out of there, I think Parker is super live as that fight progresses, man. And I think that's something that you might keep an eye on live betting because I think Josh Parisian might win that first round, and you get even better odds of Parker Porter at a plus 600 or something going into the second round. But definitely one of the more live dogs on the card.
I don't know if he touched on it, but he's never seen a round 3.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Parisian, man, I'm not high on him at all. Another fighter I'm just not high on, man. Lionheart Anthony Smith. Shoot, man, I wish he was better than what he's been showing recently. He's facing the brown bear Devin Clark, who's 12-4. Anthony Smith, he's coming off of some ass whoopings, man. Like just plain and simple. The Glover to Sheriff fight, he lost teeth, and the Alexander Rachael fight, he had zero shining moments in that fight. And realistically, he's 4-3 since moving to light heavyweight. Two of those 4 being to Rashad Evans and Shogun, who were way over the hill at the time. And then his Volkan Oezdemir win, that's Oezdemir coming off the ass whooping from DC. And then the Gustafsson fight, Gus was talking about retirement. It was just like he Homer Simpsons his way into victory. And he can. One thing about Anthony Smith is he sure can take a beating, and that's just not something I would ever want to bank on. Per MMA by the numbers on Twitter, Anthony Smith has landed 180 significant strikes over his last 2 fights, and he has absorbed 379 significant strikes in that same time. He is a punching bag, and I think, this will be his 50th pro fight. I think that he's over the hill. He's not just your regular 32-year-old.
Right.
He's one that has miles on him, and I think is just fighting for a paycheck at this point. He's seen the upper echelon with John Jones, and I think he understands he's never going to get to that point. Right. And now he has Thiago Santos to look forward to if he wins this fight, who already sent him running from middleweight. So, not a lot of good things to say on Anthony Smith, and that sucks because I really like him as a person. But as a fighter, man, I don't like him much. Yeah, but now looking at Devin Clark, he's riding a 2-fight win streak, one over Daquan Townsend, which doesn't say much at all, but one over Alonzo Menifield, making him go to the first decision of his career, and one that I was really impressed with. Another, even taking Devin Clark's losses into consideration, he's lost to the champion Jan Blachowicz. Alex Nicholson, which that was a 185 fight, so I'm really looking past that one. Alexander Rakic, who just, I mean, he's going to be a title
Almost debut.
challenger at light heavyweight, yeah. And Ryan Spann. Blachowicz, Rakic, and Spann, I think, all beat Anthony Smith. And Clark was able to land multiple takedowns in the Rakic and Spann fight. And that's something that I don't see changing up in this fight. He's a heavy wrestler, and I think that he's really looked good in being able to implement his game plan on guys who are much bigger than him in the light heavyweight division. One fight I specifically like looking at is Mike Rodriguez. Rodriguez is 6'4" with an 82-inch reach. That's somebody who, can compare to Anthony Smith and how they fight and everything. And Devin Clark was able to land multiple takedowns on Mike Rodriguez and keep the fight where he needed it to be. Just kind of a look at Devin Clark's resume, wrestling wise, he's got 20 takedowns and 9 light heavyweight fights, and I guarantee that momentum doesn't stop with Anthony Smith. I see Devin Clark being able to ride this one out to decision win, and I think he makes it look easy. And we're getting him at plus money right now. I don't know what the odds. I don't want to bank on Anthony Smith, who's shelled up in fetal position more times than I've ever seen any fighter in UFC history do.
Man, so, as we break it down, I do get more and more in the middle. Originally, I leaned toward Anthony Smith. Is he fighting for a paycheck? Is he stepping back in here on short notice to make a statement to show you that we really haven't seen the lion heart, that we know is there? Because recently, man, outside of his round one with whoever you can argue he's lost almost every other, the last 2 fights. He is not only shelled up. Anthony Smith, man, has given up, in my opinion, and that's not something you want to see in a guy who's already moved from his original weight class where he spent so many years, moved up, unsuccessful title shot, saying he's going to get back, now getting finished, and 2 more times after that. You can't question the guy's durability, but I'm kind of questioning the heart that's still there for this guy. He had the break-in incident. That really did seem to
shake him
rattle
up,
him, and shake him up a little bit. That being said, man, I think light heavyweight is definitely where Anthony Smith should have been his whole entire career. Not sure how this dude made 185 because he's got a massive frame. Man, he's got excellent jiu-jitsu, but that almost, we've seen it time and time again in fighters, that almost makes him too willing to accept the wrestling and to go to his back. And if Devin's smart about it, he can lay and pray for 15 minutes here on Saturday night. He's the younger fighter. I know it's 30 and 32, but you look at the number of fights and the mileage that these guys have on the body, and Devin Clark should be a 24-year-old compared to Anthony Smith. You look at the last 5 of both of these guys. I know they both have Rakic on there. They both got the decision loss to them, but Anthony Smith has just been in there with the better guys, and man, I say that and it's not looked good against all 5 of those. He had moments in the Glover and Ostomir fight where he was probably, a couple shots away from being finished himself. Then you move over to Devin Clark, and you touched on it. It's the wrestling heavy game plan. And outside of that, man, he really doesn't have much to offer you. But man, Smith doesn't really give anything back that I'm worried about at the same time. Devin Clark is on a 2-fight win streak. In that last fight with Alonzo Minifield, man, he took that first punch in the first round and his eye completely swelled up and shut. And I'm telling you, the only reason that guy didn't quit is his dad was in his corner screaming at him. Like, I can't remember if we had a crowd or not for that fight. You could hear it through the TV, and that's all the commentators talked about the entire fight, is Devin's dad just screaming at him, would not let him quit. Man, Smith has just given up lately, and the more I talk about it, the more I look at it. I almost don't mind playing Devin Clark and dog money, being the younger, more explosive guy who's kind of found his groove as of late. And the only way I see Anthony Smith getting this done is by submission on the ground when he gets taken down, too willing to accept that takedown, tries to play around with his jiu-jitsu, and maybe with the long legs and big frame, he blocks up a triangle or something on the mat. That's sitting at a plus 500, and more I think about it, it's the only way Anthony Smith gets this one done.
I mean, there's a couple of ways we could play this. We could do Devin Clark straight, and then Devin Clark by decision, and then just hedge it with an Anthony Smith sub. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah. There's all kind of ways I play it, but
But I think Devin Clark just
straight up, and I think I'm all right with it, man. The more that we break it down, I do think that is one that I wouldn't say that that is a play that I am just 100% confident on that I'm like max it, but it's one that I think has a ton of value. It's hard for me to not play it.
and the way that I look at it with the way that Anthony Smith has been losing recently, I don't know if there's a fight in the light heavyweight division that I would want to put my money on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's just uh, man, I feel bad just talking. I haven't said one good thing about him, but I feel bad because he's a really good dude. But there's just not much that I'm liking from him right now.
As of late, just like you said, you haven't seen much that we like either, and I think I'm okay with playing the underdog and Devin Clark. And man, moving on to to the main event, we have Curtis Razor Blaydes, who's 14-2, taking on Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, who's 24-7. Derrick Lewis, for me, I know we're exact opposites because you look for every opportunity to fade him, and I look for every single opportunity to bet Derrick Lewis. I don't know what it is. The guy pulls wins out of his ass, and if they're given to him where he KOs you with 3 seconds left, I just don't know. I think it was MMA numbers on Twitter. This guy's seen the third round 9 times, and he's 8-1 in that. And it's like, I'm never going to list cardio as a strength for Derrick Lewis. So how is he 8-1 after seeing the third round? It makes no sense to me. Derrick Lewis is just one of those guys that, and sometimes I just can't help but pull the trigger. And they got him sitting at a TKO at plus 425. That's the only way he beats. That is the only way he beats Curtis Blaydes. And dude, it will come fight night. I know I won't be able to stay away from it. Let it be known, man. I think Curtis Blaydes dominates this fight. You've got a 29-year-old who I think is going to be along for a very, very long time. One that I think the UFC really needs to start appreciating because I think they've got some real raw talent on their hands. This guy trains out of Team Elevation, and with the grappling heavy approach, I don't want to bet. There's no other camp that I want to train at that's going to prep you cardio wise, elevation wise in the mountains for a guy with that grappling heavy, especially at heavyweight, carry all that weight. There's not a camp that I could select better for Curtis Blaydes than Elevation Fight Team. He's got 2 losses on his record, both of those to Francis Ngannou, and that seems to kind of be Curtis Blaydes' kryptonite. It's big power, but it's big power that can be thrown with speed, and Lewis doesn't necessarily have that much speed. That being said, he does lure guys to sleep sometimes, by not throwing it, and then he'll come just bull rushing at you with shots, even a switch head kick. I don't know how he can throw it. Derrick Lewis, man, he will lure you to sleep and then throw a shot that a lot of guys just don't see coming.
And that Francis Ngannou fight, he lured everybody.
He lured everybody. That was the absolute worst fight, man. And I don't think this fight is going to be like that. You had Francis coming off the Stipe loss and just extremely, extremely timid to throw and stuff again. And Curtis Blaydes just is not that guy. He's going to go out there and put a pace and a pressure on Derrick Lewis. He's an amazing, amazing wrestler. I know he holds the most UFC takedowns in heavyweight history by a very, very significant number. He's just so much faster on the feet. Derrick Lewis has power in his right hand. He has the fuck you, I'm ready to get up strength. But he has that against Ivanov, Latifi, Olenek. He didn't have it against DC, a legit wrestler. He's not going to have that against a legit wrestler in Curtis Blaydes. And, people want to talk about the Volkov fight. I like Volkov. I've bet on Volkov so many times. Volkov made Curtis Blaydes work for every single takedown. He made him work for every second he was going to hold him there on the ground. Derrick Lewis doesn't make anybody work. You can literally lay there and pray on Derrick Lewis. I like Curtis Blaydes all day in this one, but Derrick Lewis is a very, very durable guy, a guy that's tough as hell to get out of there. Couple ways, couple odds that I've looked at on this one. To start round 3 is a minus 115. I do think Derrick Lewis is durable enough to get out of the first 2 rounds, even though I think Blaydes takes this one easily. But I also like Blaydes inside the distance at a minus 125. But a TKO was plus 150, and there's plus money there, and we haven't seen Blaydes submit anybody. So I'm curious to see if do we take Blaydes at a TKO for plus money and just kind of forget about the sub.
So, I didn't know about the Derrick Lewis prop, TKO being a plus
25.
425. Really, man, I think that the move is Blaydes inside the distance, max bet it, and then just hedge it with a Derrick Lewis TKO. Right, and it would negate any of the losses that we have. But you're right. It is no secret that I'm not, the biggest fight fan of Derrick Lewis. I think he's a great entertainer and he's like a really cool dude, but I think he is the most overrated heavyweight on the roster, and he's really gotten by with his brute strength and power. He's rode that his entire career. And we see it in his 3-fight win streak he's on right now. He's lost 2 of those, in my opinion. The Black Boy Ivanov is a split decision. I think he lost it. The Latifi fight, he gets controlled by the smaller man.
He was losing every minute of the Olympic fight until he got knocked him out.
Right, Olynyk had him mounted. He's a 44-year-old who doesn't have real good, takedowns by any means. He's a submission specialist, and I think that he probably, if they ran that back, Olynyk could get it done. He like blew his whole wad trying to get that bulldog choke in the first round. But you're right, Derrick Lewis just accepts being on his back, and that's not something that he's going to be able to do against Curtis fucking Blaydes, who I think, beats every heavyweight in the division except for Francis and Stipe with ease, And even if he ran that Stipe fight back, or I'm sorry, the Francis fight back, he might come in as the favorite once again. And that's something Curtis Blaydes, in his entire UFC career, he's never been an underdog, which I thought was pretty crazy, especially in the rematch with Francis. Curtis Blaydes, he does have that wrestling heavy attack, and MMA Twitter would tell you he's a very boring fighter, but he does have 9 wins by KO or TKO and some vicious ground and pound. And, I think that this is somebody in Derrick Lewis that he's going to be able to implement that ground and pound. And Derrick Lewis, I'm not sure if he's going to get knocked out, but I could see Derrick Lewis just kind of giving up and then having to call the fight. Derrick Lewis is too tough for his own good, and he's been able to, like I said, just ride out being a big dude who has that fuck you strength to get up. And I don't think it's going to work against a guy who's 6'5" and pushes the heavyweight limit. If Latifi coming up from 205 can hold you down on the ground, I sure as hell would bet everything I own that Curtis Blaydes can too. And, Blaydes has kind of been knocked for his kryptonite being that heavy power, but we're talking about Francis Ngannou, who has the hardest punch in the world. So I don't know if it's comparable. One of the cool facts about Curtis Blaydes is he only needs 16 seconds of top position in this fight to be the first heavyweight in history to have over an hour of top position time. I mean, he gets in there and does what he needs to do every single fight, even if it does make it a boring fight. Curtis Blaydes, he is the much better fighter here, and I give up on MMA if he loses this fight, man. But at the same time, you're right. Derrick Lewis only has the ability to win this by TKO, and it's sitting at plus 400, whatever. It's high enough that we should sprinkle a little hedge just to cover our asses. But if we want to do the max bet and redeem ourselves on this one for Curtis Blaydes inside the distance or by TKO, I like the inside the distance because we know he's going to get it on the ground. So to pay a little bit amount to cover our butts there. Man, I can't say more about Curtis Blaydes. I think that he gets this done really easily, and we see Derrick Lewis finally. I get the opportunity to fade Derrick Lewis and probably get the win.
Yeah, that's a really good fight, man. I know Derrick Lewis was asking for this fight. He's even been vocally saying he is going to take Curtis Blaydes down. And on Instagram, from outside of all the memes and stuff, you can see Derrick Lewis does look to be in honestly good shape. We've seen him trim the weight off every single fight, come in lighter and lighter and lighter, to where he's not having to cut all that weight. But, you might want to have the weight on you in this fight against a guy that you're trying to out-wrestle. Man, Curtis Blaydes all day in this one for me. Same with you.
Yeah, same with me.
And then if you had to lock up a fight of the night, what's your fight of the night?
Fight of the night? Not fighter of the night?
We'll go fight of the night.
Okay. Fight of the night. I'm going to go Bill Algeo and Spike Carlyle.
Yeah. That's a super good one, man. That's probably one I would have chose as well. I think Miguel Baeza and Takashi Sato literally right behind them to second fight on the main card there. I think that's back to back killer fights that we're going to get to see. And the fighter for you to watch on Saturday, who would that be?
The fighter that I want to watch is Mudaerji. That dude gets me pumped up. Like I said, he fights like Conor McGregor. He has that awesome stand up game, and as long as he can keep it on the feet, I see him just picking Malcolm Gordon apart.
Man, the fighter to watch for me on Saturday is Jonathan Pearce. Just being the hometown Tennessee, man, this guy's. You listened to his story before the Contender Series about getting beat up and putting a coma by Jim Bully and stuff like that. I love this guy. I said let it be known I want him. And I think he's getting disrespected, taking a guy on short notice, just having a lackluster performance against Joe Lozon in his backyard. I think they're disrespecting Jonathan Pearce here. Yes, he has very poor striking defense, but he's a dog, man, and he's hard to get out of there.
He blocks punches with his face.
He is a guy that is so fun to watch. And like I said, he may not win. Jonathan Pearce is a guy that I'm definitely going to watch on Saturday.
I like it.
So as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, find another giveaway or something to do once we hit 200 subscribers there for you guys. In the comments below, let us know who you got this weekend. And follow us on Twitter. Bets are always tracked at Bet in the name below as well. Hope you guys are catching with us.